Hey guys, how you going? I hope you're all doing really well and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be going through 10 habits that I found really beneficial when I was going through my weight loss and fitness journey and really made it more enjoyable and healthy in the long run. Okay, so straight in with number one is use your spare time wisely. Now, nowadays we are constantly struggling with a work-life balance and it can be really hard to strike that balance, but it's also super important that you do have a social life and that you do things you enjoy. So when you're trying to add into that maybe a fitness regime or you're trying to fit in healthy eating around maybe going out and socializing, it becomes really important to use your spare time really wisely. Now this looks different for everybody, but for me an example of how I was using my spare time wisely would be when I was cooking my dinner. I would use that time, that 5 to 10 minutes, to do a little bit of exercise. Nothing obsessive, just maybe some fun stuff, maybe some handstands against the wall, some push-ups against the kitchen counter, maybe some pistol squat practice or something like that. Literally just for fun, not trying to actually get genuine reps out, but just to move my body. Additionally, sometimes it can be quite tempting to, when we have a bit of spare time, just sit and relax. And although it's really important to rest and relax, and you know, I'm not opposed to the odd YouTube binge or Netflix binge, it's also beneficial to use that time if you don't feel like you need to be sitting there, to go and do something, go for a walk, try and do something a little bit more productive, try and do something that's going to help you work towards your goals. Life is all about balance, so while it's really important to go and do your socializing, and it's super important when you have some spare time to rest and relax and maybe watch some YouTube or watch some Netflix, trust me, I do it all the time, probably a little bit too much. It's also super beneficial to use that time wisely, and if you can go for a walk or you can multitask and do a couple of other things at the same time, then that can be a really great way of feeling more positive, a bit more motivated, and just like you're getting on track. Moving on to number two, and this is something that is quite daunting to a lot of people to start with, but sharing your progress can be a really great habit to get into, and it can be super motivating to keeping you on track if you're trying to lose weight or if you're going through a fitness journey or just anything in general. I definitely did not do this when I was losing weight. However, when I started doing calisthenics, I created my Instagram account, and through that Instagram account I met a lot of people who are now my friends, and I became super motivated and passionate about what I was doing. I also see this time and time again when people actually begin to share their progress, whether it might be their weight loss journey or their fitness journey or their food or whatever it might be, they become a lot more invested in it and they feel accountable. Not only that, but it can form that sense of community that we often feel like we're lacking. Something that I'm going to probably make another video on, but the feeling of when you come across a roadblock and you feel demotivated or you feel like you're not making progress, and it can be a very lonely place to be. But if you're sharing your progress, you often will find you get a lot of support from people in similar positions, and it makes it a whole lot easier to keep going and keep on track. So there's no right or wrong. You could just share your progress with your friends and family. You could create an Instagram or social media account. You could start documenting it through video. You could even just go onto forums and have a chat with people. Even Reddit is a fantastic place to go. But sharing your progress, it really does help to make you feel included in a community, to make you feel like you're not alone, and to keep you accountable. I know personally at first it was really daunting, and to be fair, sometimes I still find it a bit daunting, but it's helped me so much. It's helped me grow, it's kept me on track, it's kept me accountable, and I really enjoyed it as well. And not only that, but I've met some amazing people through doing that. One last point on showing your progress is that not only can it benefit you, but it can really benefit others. You see this time and time again when people create YouTube or Instagram accounts to document their weight loss progress, for example, and it really helps others understand what the concepts behind weight loss are or fitness. It makes them understand that it's possible for anybody. You might really inspire somebody to do something similar, and it can really have a positive impact on those around you or even a stranger that you might never meet. So for that alone, it could be super beneficial. All right, point number three is to block apps and set timers. You've probably heard this a million times, and this is something that I dabble in. And I usually do it for a week or two and then I kind of fall off the bandwagon, but it is really handy if you find that you spend a lot of time on apps or just mindlessly scrolling. A lot of technology has the function nowadays to be able to limit the amount of time you can spend on an app, and if anything, it can just bring your attention to just how much time you do spend on your phone, maybe wasting time. I know I definitely waste time on social media and pointless websites and repeatedly checking feeds or my emails, for example, when I've already been on. I kind of just do it in autopilot, and I think a lot of us do. And if we could be a bit more aware of the time we're spending on those things, it can really lead to a healthier mindset in terms of what you can achieve with your time. Again, this is not about completely cutting it out, it's all about balance, but sometimes we get into a habit or we just become so accustomed to getting an overload of information and we don't realise the effect necessarily it's having on us. I experience this all the time, and I think I'll talk about this a little bit later on in the video, where I slowly, over weeks and weeks and weeks, start to realise that my behaviour is changing and my mindset's becoming a little bit more negative, until I realise it's probably that I'm spending too much time on social media and that sort of subliminal level of comparison. So I start to tell it back. I maybe put some timers on my app so I'm aware of how much time I'm spending on them, and I, sure enough, see my mindset slowly get better. And also, on a similar note, is turning off notifications on your phone can be a complete game changer. If you turn notifications off on maybe WhatsApp, email, and on your social media, whatever it might be, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, it can be really, really good, because it's that little level of distraction that you get when you get a notification, and it's very hard. I personally find it very hard if I see a notification to ignore my phone. So I just switched them off over lockdown, and it's probably been the best thing I've done for my productivity and just my general distraction. At first it's a little bit weird, but after a while you start to realise that you're spending longer and longer without thinking about messages or apps or something like that. And also it's really nice when you get to a couple of hours later and you open the app and you realise you've got a couple of different messages to respond to and people who've checked in on you, and that's really nice, rather than just seeing it constantly drip feed straight away. So sort of on a similar tact, point number 4 is to curate your social media feed. So this is kind of what I was talking about. I'm going to try and give you an example of what happens to me, and you might see something similar happening with you. So basically, I will follow accounts who I genuinely love their content. I find it really informative. I find that I really enjoy seeing what they post, and I look forward to seeing it. But slowly over time, I start to realise that my productivity and more so my motivation and self-confidence and self-belief start to decline a little bit. And I realise that's coming down to a very subliminal, subconscious level of comparison. So for me, it's that feeling of, why would anybody listen to me when this person's doing it so much better? Or in my opinion, this person gets the point across a little bit better or have achieved so much more than me. And I start to slowly draw back and pull away from doing my work or from really committing to ideas that I have, just because I start to lack the self-belief. And I slowly clock on to what's happening. So then I will stop following these accounts, not because I don't like what they're posting or I don't want to see them, but just simply because it's affecting my work or it's affecting my mindset. And I notice that I suddenly become a lot more productive, I believe in myself a lot more, and I have a lot more self-confidence. Like I say, this happens for me on a very subconscious level, and I think for a lot of people it does as well. So it happens like for 1 month, I'll start following people, then I will realise my productivity, maybe my self-confidence is dropping, and then after a couple of months I will realise what's actually happening. I will stop following these people and then find a new bunch of people to follow, and so on and so forth. This can really have a much bigger effect than we think on our day-to-day life and how we feel about ourselves. So if it's something that you want to try and identify if it's happening to you, maybe have a think when you consume someone's content, how it makes you feel. Genuinely try to tap into, have I walked away feeling super, super motivated, or do I feel a little bit down on myself or like I'm not achieving enough? And that should be a good enough signal whether you should just unfollow them for a little while or whether you should continue following them. Really, you want your feed and people you follow to be made up of people that really genuinely motivate you and you're not comparing yourself to. Okay, point number 5, and you've probably heard this so many times, it sounds so cliche, but listen to more podcasts and audiobooks. There are some absolutely fantastic audiobooks out there and some amazing, unbelievable podcasts as well. And they really can be super motivating to listen to. They can bring up topics that you have been thinking about yourself and really discuss them in detail. And again, that feeling of just not feeling alone. I've been walking a lot more since I've been injured, and I've been listening to tons of podcasts since I've been doing it as well, and I've come across some fantastic ones. So a few that are really good that I'll name are the James Smith podcast. For anyone who's interested in fitness from a beginner's perspective, in fat loss, in training in general, even nutrition. He's got some fantastic stuff up there. So check out the James Smith podcast. There is the Mindset Mentor, which is by Rob Dahl Jr. He's got some fantastic ones. They're nice and short, 15 minutes long usually, and they just touch on loads of mindset things like positivity, anxiety, imposter syndrome, which was an amazing one for me. In fact, you guys know that I suffer a lot with imposter syndrome, and it was his podcast about imposter syndrome that really was the kick in the bum that I needed to not necessarily get over it, but I always go back to what he said in that podcast, and it's made a huge difference. In terms of audiobooks, there's a fantastic one called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, very, very famous one. That's worth a listen. And also Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, which is all about negotiations and kind of not accepting no as your first answer. One of my favourite books, and I'm sure it'd be available on audiobook too, is Good Vibes, Good Life by Vex King. If you struggle with prioritising self-care, negative self-talk, doubting yourself, and just generally trying to be positive, this is a fantastic read, so you could always check that one out as well. Oh, I thought of one more as well. If you're interested in more of the training aspect, but they do have a lot of other stuff on there as well, the School of Calisthenics podcast is amazing, so you can always check that out as well. All right, point number 6 is don't care what other people are thinking, and that's the polite way of putting it. It's really easy to want to follow the crowd and to not do something because you're worried about other people's opinions. Trust me, I am the biggest people pleaser type of person out there. I always want to do what will benefit other people over me, and I have spent the majority of my life doing so. I'm still learning, but I'm getting much better at just doing what I want to do and just blocking out all the noise and literally enjoying what I like and really committing to the best thing for me. This can be a really hard habit to form because we generally think that if we're prioritizing ourselves and we're kind of blocking out what everyone else thinks, it's quite a selfish thing to do. And especially if you are that people pleaser type of personality, that's kind of your worst nightmare. But it is healthy to prioritize yourself. And as I'm constantly reminded, it's that time-old thing of fit your own oxygen mask for helping others. If you're not prioritizing yourself and looking after yourself and what you want, you're never going to be having the best impact you can on others around you. Not only that, but if you try and please everyone, you're going to end up pleasing absolutely no one. And trust me, again, you would have heard that saying over and over again, and it is so, so true. You will get to a point where you just realize you just don't need to care what anyone else thinks and really do what's best for you, and everyone else will fit in around it. At the end of the day, there's always going to be people doing something different. There's always going to be people saying that what you're doing is wrong. There's always going to be people that support you, and if you listened to all of them, you would probably end up doing nothing. So block out all the noise, don't care what other people are doing or saying, and just do what's going to be best for you. All right, changing tack slightly, we're going on to point number 7, which is get outdoors more. Now, you guys know I love the outdoors. I like hiking, any outdoor pursuits, hiking, climbing, kayaking, bouldering, calisthenics, just generally walking. I love being outdoors, and it is obviously there's so much science behind why being outdoors is beneficial for you. In fact, I did write a blog post on this, and I will link it somewhere so you can have a look, but there are so many benefits to being outdoors, but the main one really is you just feel freedom and you feel peace just getting outdoors. On those days where you just feel a little bit rubbish and you don't want to do anything, it might be those ones where you don't want to get out of bed or you don't want to train or whatever it might be. If you just go for a little walk, 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, something like that, usually like 95% of the time, you'll come back and you'll feel so much better. You'll have a clear head and you'll just be feeling a lot more positive. Like I said, when I go out on my walks, I tend to just listen to a podcast, and I find that I come up with some amazing ideas when I'm out on my walks, and I generally come back feeling a lot more motivated and like I'm in control of everything. I come down, I write all my ideas that I've had on my walk, and then I just get cracking on it. The other benefits are that it's free, and no matter where you live in the world, you'll have somewhere you can go outdoors, even if it's walking the streets in the city. So you can go out and enjoy it. Okay, moving on to food, and I'm gonna say this, and it might seem a little bit weird, but if you're the sort of person that has cravings for certain types of food, whether it be healthy or unhealthy, give in to those cravings. If you really want some chocolate and you keep restricting yourself from having it, you're just gonna keep thinking about it. There's just no point. You might as well just go and have some chocolate. What's probably more likely to happen is you're not going to have it, and you're going to want it more and more and more. It's going to keep building up, and then when you eventually give into it, you're just going to end up eating a ton more than you would have. So give into it. it's not going to be the end of the world. Again, it's all about balance. If you are looking for weight loss, for example, then it's about a consistent calorie deficit. 1 bar of chocolate or even half a big bar of chocolate is going to make absolutely no difference if consistently you are showing up and you are eating in a calorie deficit. Life is really too short to be deliberating over every single thing that you're eating and restricting everything. So if you're craving something, just have it to start with, and you'll end up probably eating a little bit less of it than you would have anyway. So it leads to a much healthier and positive mindset about nutrition and food, and ultimately will still help you reach your goals. Man, if you could see what I was eating all the time, I'm giving into cravings constantly. Okay, second to last point is meet new people. And I know this can be hard, especially as an adult, but once you start doing it, A, it becomes a lot easier, and B, it's so beneficial. Again, I know how difficult this can be because I'm someone who, my entire life, I've moved around a lot. I've moved to so many different countries, and I've had to constantly meet new people and make new friendship groups. Social connection is more important than ever, so this one is really important. A few ways you can do this is going on forums or websites where there is like meetups, for example. If you have a hobby that you're interested in, for example, it might be hiking or bouldering, then look for groups in your local area, especially if you're new to the area. Or you could just try something new, go to a yoga class or a cooking class or a pottery class. That being said, you do have to be proactive in this one. It can be really difficult to make that first step to try and initiate a conversation or make a friendship, but it's really not as scary as you think once you start doing it. This is something that I've become much better at as I've got older and a bit more confident as well. But to flip it around and look at it from another perspective, from some of the friends I have who have approached me, for example, in a gym or even in a cafe, I have never been in a situation where I thought it was weird. I actually thought it was really nice and flattering that someone would come over to me and talk to me and strike up a conversation as a friend. I have a lot of respect for that, and so if you reverse it, if you're doing it in a genuine way, then there's no reason why they wouldn't have respect for that either. And always ask yourself at the end of the day, what's the worst that's going to happen? If you go up and talk to someone or go to a group meeting and don't get on with anyone, you don't have to see them again. You can literally just disappear and they're not going to know who you are. So it's always worth a shot. All right, point number 10 is simplify exercise and nutrition. So we can get really hung up on what we're doing with exercise and nutrition, what type of exercise to do, how long we should be doing it for, to what intensity we should be doing it, what we should be eating, whether we should be following a certain diet, and not only that, but the ongoing pain of deliberating over everything that we eat. When you really think about the stress this is putting us under and the amount of time we dedicate to thinking about it, it's not a healthy habit to have, and it can be super draining. So just simplify it and let go of all the pressure you put on yourself. If you are confused about nutrition, just simplify. If you're looking for fat loss, reduce your portions. If you are worried because so many other people are making these amazing meals and they look really fancy, like Instagrammable meals, but you just like beans on toast, then just have beans on toast, like tastes delicious. You don't have to do a fancy workout. If you just enjoy walking, that's perfect. Go for a really long walk. There is nothing wrong with simplicity. In fact, it can be a really great thing. So once you just let go of all the pressure you put on yourselves to overcomplicate things, or not only that, but overthink exercise and nutrition, it becomes a whole lot easier, and honestly, it feels like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. Ultimately, just do what you love. Life is way too short. As long as you've got a bit of balance in your life, that's all that matters. So just get out there and enjoy it. So those are 10 healthy habits that could really benefit you or might be worth exploring or having a little think about to just ease up some of the pressure in your life and hopefully make you feel a little bit more positive or in control throughout the day. Habits can be really hard to form, and old habits can be really hard to break as well. But they say it takes 28 days to form a habit. It's one of those things, the first day, let's say for example, and I've said this before, I drink way too much coffee, like obscene amounts of coffee, and I'll try and minimize how much I'm drinking. So day one, I will cut my coffee consumption down, and I'm like, you know what, I've got control of this is totally fine. Day two, I'm struggling. Day three is horrific. Day four, I may get to that point, or I may have gone back to the beginning and just given up by that point. But the more I try, the further I get down the line. And once you get to about the end of the first week, you'll start to notice it gets a little bit easier, you think a little bit less about it, and then by the end of the month, it's just become a habit, and really, you don't have to put much thought into it at all. So if you can commit 1 month to really trying to form some habits that you think are going to benefit you in the future, and just take note, track how you feel, track how it's made a difference, and you can assess from there whether it's something that you want to carry on. Again, like anything, it's not going to be the same for everybody, so the advice or the suggestions that I'm giving you might not work for you, but some of them might be really beneficial, and even if you just take away one from the video that helps you, that's worthwhile. I would love to know your guys' opinion on this. If you have any healthy habits that you do and you'd like to share, pop them down in the comments below, because I'd love to see them and potentially share them as well. Otherwise, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.